Let's start the show.
Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Hack Hour Show with your host, Lindsey Vertner. That's me. And we have a phenomenal guest on the show tonight, as we always do. I'm going to introduce our special guest in just a moment, but I got some housekeeping rules that we got to go over, okay? So hopefully you have grabbed your drink and you are ready to join the chat, because this is a conversation. This is an engagement between myself, our special guest, and you. So make sure you comment, love, share this video out, all right? Comment, love, share. And if you are watching or tuning in live, then comment all the way live. Hey! And if you're catching the replay later on, we still love you. We appreciate you for tuning in. Comment replay all day, okay? So right now, comment where you're tuning in from, and make sure you have your pen and paper, because y'all know this is a personal development show. We always are helping you with your life, with your business, with your money, with all the things, so that you can grow and improve you, yourself, and you, okay? So make sure you are taking good notes, and then you go back and watch the replay, because you never know the gems that are going to be dropped. I hear people say, oh, dang, I should have wrote that down. And then they got to go back and watch the replay, which is fine as well. But again, if you are getting good nuggets from the show, then there's somebody in your life that is also going to get good nuggets from the show. So what do you need to do? Comment, love, and share this video out with your friends and family. Spread the love, okay? Don't be stingy with the knowledge, all right? If you do not know who I am, my name is Lindsey Vertner, and I'm an award-winning peak potential strategist and transformational speaker. And what I do is I help high-achieving women who struggle with things like perfectionism, overthinking, and doubt learn how to master their mindset. Yes. So that they can create their first-class life and increase their clarity, connections, confidence, and ultimately their cash flow. That's what I do. That is my jam. That is my purpose. And listen, tonight's guest is in the same wheelhouse as me, and I'm so excited to share the stage with him. Let me go ahead and introduce who he is so we can get this discussion started, because I know it's going to be juicy. So tonight's guest is named Sid Scott, and he is a mindset and confidence coach to over 100 women coaches and entrepreneurs across multiple platforms. After being tasked with learning 2 languages in his military career, he got pretty good at listening to people talk and knowing just how to respond. Now he helps women coaches and entrepreneurs break up with imposter syndrome, doubt, and any other limits in their way to achieving more money and more impact. Listen, tonight's show is gonna be good. So again, let's give a round of applause for our guest. And one more thing, if you want to stay updated on all things happy hour, then make sure that you sign up for our email list, okay? Become a VIP at bit.ly/happy updates. But before you do that, let's bring on tonight's guest.
Hey! What's going on?
How are you?
Super excited. I am great.
We are excited to have you on the Happy Hour Show, looking dapper as ever over there. So I know that I just gave a super quick brief rundown a little bit about what you do and your resume and things like that. But before we get into all that, I want you to tell the folks on the Happy Hour show tonight, who is Sid really? Like, give us the juicy tea. Take us back. Who are you, Sid?
Okay, who am I? Well, I am the son of Michael and Doreen, and who I am is it's a really interesting background for me because on the one hand we've got my mom's side, and she's white, she's Christian. We got my dad's side, that's the black side. We roll a little bit differently over there. And being between those two different places has just kind of resulted in me, being that person who wants to see the gap, be bridged, wants to see everyone be happy, wants to see understanding on both sides, wants to see love flowing from both sides. And that's the short and who I am. And we didn't necessarily grow up with a lot of money. So one of the things that I realized from early on is I want to be really successful. I want to do something different than I've seen on either side of my family. So and I'm doing it.
Legacy builder. Yes. Well, listen, let's get into that. So you mentioned your mother is Caucasian, she's white, and then your dad is black. So already you have some, not now, but likely as a child, you probably had some identity issues, because I know in the black community, there's the whole light skin, dark skin, and being biracial with having racial friends is like, you're not white enough / you're not black enough. Did you ever go through any identity issues as a child?
Listen, I absolutely went through so many for years, well into teenage years. And I think it's no mistake that imposter syndrome, doubt, lack of confidence are all of the things that I deal with, because they're all of the things that, were so real for me. And, what is imposter syndrome, right? It's essentially feeling like you're not enough for who you say you are or who you claim to be. And, growing up, it was this, I didn't quite feel black enough. I was never sure if I had my black card or not. Right. I was like, I don't know. Do I got it? Can y'all tell me if I got it? But on the other hand, just being, when I went to church school growing up, and of course, there was not a lot of diversity there. So just being very aware that I'm very different from everyone else in this church, from like everyone else in these schools. And so I don't know. I can tell that I don't quite fit. I can tell that, people are looking at me differently. And I went through that all the way, through high school, where I just, in some instances, my blackness was validated. In other instances, it was invalidated, and I never knew what I was going to get. And so I had to really just start to figure out, okay, like who I am, and, who I am, and be confident in owning all parts of me.
Yes. Listen, I'm sure there are so many people that can relate to having those moments where they're like, who am I? Even if they are biracial or in a multicultural background, because that can also come up when we're busy living up to the expectations of other people, like trying to be who our parents want us to be, or trying to be who our job wants us to be, or for the parents out there, trying to be all these things to be a good mom or a good dad. And then once your kids go off to school, you're stuck left with just you, and you're like, who am I? So what are some tips that you use to help kind of build your identity and understand who you are, that you think the viewers could also use?
Oh, wow. That's such an incredible question. What are some tips to kind of figure out who you are? Well, the first thing that I'll say is we have a strong sense of who we are at the core. And it's just through these experiences that we have where we start to fragment ourselves off, we start to shape shift, we try to figure out how to get our needs met, how to belong, how to fit in. And it's really peeling back the layers of all of the ways in which you may have, you know, altered yourself or, changed how you show up in the world. Peeling back all the layers of why you maybe did that, at what points did you start doing that. And so for me, I would say the first tip is, get really honest and say, hey, what are all the points in my life that I did something to gain approval from somebody or some system? And what are all the things that I've done to avoid disapproval from somebody or some system? And you'll really see really quickly, oh my goodness, right? Like here's all the parts of me. You can start to go, restore the connection with all of those, parts of you that are, trapped in those situations, just, being held back. And the other tip that I would say too is understand that being that we know who we are, really get quiet and think about the times where you have felt the most happy, the most connected, the most loved, and look at the similarities and look at some of the other feelings and emotions that showed up in those memories. And from there, you can start to think about, well, what are some more things that I could be doing that make me feel those same emotions? And you really start to come home to yourself. Those are like the two things that just come off the top of my mind. And I'm curious, like for you, Lindsey, what would you say are some tips for that?
Yeah, I actually love that you said that because sometimes we are honest with ourselves that we are trying to be somebody else. And so I have this thing called living your first class life, and it's all about shedding away those masks of fear, doubt, living up to the expectations of other people, and creating the quality of life that you desire for yourself. And one thing that I always share with my clients is to make a list of 50 things. I have every single client do this, but make a list of 50 different things. 50, and that's my easy number, okay? Sometimes people hear that and they're like, 50. I'm like, would you like more or not? But
Yeah.
make a list of 50 different things that bring you joy, happiness, relaxation, a sense of peace and serenity. And you might find that you might get to 10 and be stuck. And those are the perfect times to think about some of those things that you just mentioned about being honest with yourself, about times where you are looking for approval or avoiding disapproval, and being quiet and thinking about moments where you have felt loved or connected and things like that. Those would be perfect times to use those examples that Sid just gave whenever you are stuck in making that list of 50 things that bring joy. But it starts to refresh your brain on who you are, and you might remember things that you used to love doing that you completely forgot about because you've been too busy trying to be something that you're not. And it brings back those memories, and you start to get a sense of like, wait a minute, okay, I did used to love painting. Where is that artist piece of me? How can I go find it again? Or I did used to love singing, things like that.
Yeah, I love that. And, the thing that's standing out to me in what you're saying is it all comes back to love. It all comes back to love. Like the number one emotional driver is love. And, when you really get into your heart, and this is something that I've been working on, so much this past week, this past year, you'll start to get the memories, and you'll start to get the feedback in your body of like, yes, this is it. Like, this is me. This is what I want to say yes to. This is how I want to show up. These are the places that I want to be. These are the people that I want to be around. And it all, it all comes back to love. And you know, when that's missing is when we start to really lose ourselves.
Over here in the comments, Annie says, timely discussion for me. Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, if you are just tuning in, you are watching the Happy Hour Show with myself, Lindsey Vertner, and our very handsome guest, Mr. Sid Scott. He is a confidence and mindset coach, okay? And he's helping the ladies, all right? So if you are looking to get your life together, again, make sure you comment, love, share this video out, because this is a conversation between all of us, me, him, and you at home. So comment, love, share, and let's continue this discussion. So, in doing some of those things, I know that you have your own story. You have things like you went to the military, which I definitely want to talk about, because I know that there's so many things that you probably learned from being in the military. But how did that do any damage or benefit your identity? Because I'm sure when you got there, they were like, okay, this is what you do, this is where you go, and put you like toy soldiers all lined up perfectly in a row. So what did that do to your identity?
Okay. Well, as soon as you ask that question, like the memories are just already flooding in. And I'll say, you know, at the beginning, I was one of the younger dudes in my flight. So when you go through boot camp, you go through boot camp with a group of like 40 or 50 guys, right? And I remember they pick one person to essentially be like in charge. And that person is the liaison between like the drill instructors and like everybody else. And I remember the first person that was picked to do that job actually got fired from that position, you know, just due to not being able to have the right composure and you know, bad language she was using and things of that nature. And everyone, they took a vote, you know, who should replace him, and they voted for me. And I remember just being really surprised, you know, that they would pick me, right? You know, of just like, I was like, okay, you know what I'm saying? Like that's when I really started to understand that like I have a certain presence around me. I have no reason to question, you know, my confidence, you know, because people see it, you know, people see something in me. And so with that being said, I remember my drill instructor in particular, you know, he would really intimidate you by getting really close to you, really in your space, and whispering like the worst things in your ear, like the worst things. And one day he got real close, just stared at me up and down, like we're in, you know, the heat in Texas. It's, you know, sweating. It's over 100 degrees. You know, and I'm just trying to stand there at attention, keep my composure. He's just looking me up and down. I have no idea what's coming next. And he comes right to the side of my head and he whispers, he's like, you are really, really bad at this. He's like, you should quit. I was just like, and I could, you know, you can't react. You can't flinch. You can't move your face. You can't talk back. You can't just anything. And he just sat there, and then he stood in front of me and just let that marinate. And I was just like, I said that from that moment. I was like, you know, fuck that. This is an adult, but really, excuse my language, but I was like, fuck that. You know, you know what? No. And then on graduation day, when we graduated, he called me into his office and he said, look, he's like, I need you to know something. He's like, our military needs more people like you that can think and that will speak up when something doesn't make sense, when something's not right. You know, they need someone like you who will think, who will speak up, who's not afraid, who will use their voice. And he's like, just please make sure that you always use your voice moving forward in the military. Fast forward, I get to my first duty station and I get in my first leadership role there. At this point, I'm 20 years old, and and I want to say this. My drill instructor was black, and then the next man that I would come into contact with in my first leadership role was black too. And he said, "Hey, Scott," I was like, "Sir." He was like, "Listen, I know that you want to be a beacon and a lighthouse for people to look up to. I can see that in you. But I need to warn you. I need you to be careful. You need to watch your voice. You need to watch how you speak. You need to be careful how you speak and understand that you are going to be interpreted by people in a lot of different ways that you probably don't intend." And he's like, you will scare people. You have to watch how you communicate and how you show up. And I remember just being, really taken back and confused by that because, here I have these two leaders that I look up to giving me conflicting information. One is saying, we need you to speak up. We need your voice. And another is saying, hey, be careful. Be careful. And basically what he was telling me is like, listen, he said another thing. He's like, you have a lot of bravado and a big voice. And he's like, that's not, he basically wanted me to be careful with that. And, from there, I really started to, in this new military environment, which is, in the Air Force, it's very much like a corporation. I was just like, okay, I really had to be conscious. But at the same time, I realized I've been doing this my whole life. I know that in some areas, when I'm around my white side of the family, when I'm around the church, I'm gonna tone myself back. I'm not gonna show up the same way. Right. But then on the other side, I found myself in other situations where I kind of am quiet about my privilege or my intelligence or the way that I can speak if I really want to, because I know that I'll be made fun of and I'll be othered for those things. And, so yeah, it really impacted me in terms of like really, it planted a seed for me to question how I can show up. How can I lead people? And what's the most effective way for me to show up? And eventually, I remember when I became a non-commissioned officer at NCO, it was kind of right around that time where I said, fuck it, I'm gonna do me now, because now I get to take care of people. And so they're gonna get all of me. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're gonna get my voice. And one of the reasons why I promoted so fast and why I made sure to promote so fast is so I could, do more of that and be more of me. And not have people in my ear. So yeah.
And that's so important, because depending on like your mindset and your inner beliefs, somebody saying some things like that to you is either going to make you or break you, and you're going to internalize those words that they are speaking, and you're going to start to behave in a way that it mimics those words that they said to you. You're going to become that self-fulfilling prophecy of whatever it is that they said. So if they're saying you are nothing and you should be doing this and you're no good at this, you're going to start to internalize that, and your behaviors will suddenly change to reflect you being no good at this, and your confidence and your self-worth is deteriorating. And next thing you know, you fully believe that you are no good at what it is that you're doing. And so that's why mindset is so important, protecting that mindset and building yourself up whenever you don't necessarily have others to do it for you, because in those moments, it's just you, and you have to make the decision. All right, whose words am I going to believe? Am I going to believe the outside entities, or am I going to believe my own words? Or more importantly, believe who God says me to be. That's who we really should be listening to. So I have a quick question for you, and we're going to hop into one of my favorite parts of the show. What would you say to those people out there that don't have people of support in their lives, people to build them up, people to encourage them and speak life into them, and so they may be struggling with believing who they are because they never had anyone tell them who they are?
Okay. Wow. The first thing that I would say is if there's someone that's speaking to you in such a way that makes you feel less than or makes you question who you are and what you bring to the table, just know that you're not crazy, that you are not crazy. And the second thing that I would say is you have a choice. Regardless of who's around you and what they're saying, you have a choice in how you react to that. And please don't ever forget that you have a choice and you can still choose yourself in every single moment. And the third thing that I would say is, you know, there are people that have, you know, have basically gone through tremendous strides and leaps so that you could own your excellence and your greatness. And that is inside of you. Tap into that by remembering you have a choice, and read those stories, pick those books up, read those biographies about, you know, people who are trailblazers, game changers. I just made a post the other day about Sam Walton, the founder of Walmart, and how he got arrested in Brazil from, you know, crawling around the stores there trying to figure out if they knew something he didn't know about how to set up a store, even though he had a $1 billion company at that point. You know, those things exist. You can find them. Go tap in. Like, even if you feel like you're on an island and, you know, people are, you're feeling like maybe you're crazy to think that you could do a certain thing or be a certain thing or achieve a certain thing, whatever. Like, nah, you're not crazy. And reinforce yourself by choosing to buy into you, and find stories, find podcasts and live streams like this, and, you know, choose what you hear and choose what you want to believe.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it. If you're just tuning in, listen, we still have much of the show to go. You are watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsey Vertner, that's me, and our very handsome guest, Mr. Sid Scott, who is a mindset and confidence coach, okay? So he's already been dropping gems about finding your identity. And if you missed it, make sure you go back and watch the replay after the show is over. And don't forget, comment, love, share, post your questions for Sid down below. He'll be able to answer those later on in the show. But meanwhile, this is one of my favorite parts of the show because we like to have a little fun on the Happy Hour Show. And it's a perfect time to find out exactly
what's in your cup.
Oh, yeah. If you are new to the show, this is the part of the show where we find out what's in your cup. So first, our guest will share what he's sipping on and give us a little cup cam. I will share what I'm sipping on. And you at home tuning in, put in the comments what you are sipping on. And if unfortunately you forgot to grab your drink for whatever reason, then put what you wish you were sipping on. All right. So, Mr. Scott, what's in your cup?
Yes. So what is in my cup? Well, first we've got a nice big copper cup here. And what is inside of it? If I'm going to any happy hour, the first thing that I'm looking for is a great mule. Okay. Now I don't do a traditional mule. I want to give a shout out to my boy Breezy. And, you know, he made me the best mule I've ever had in my life with tequila. So from now on, I do all my mules with tequila. So we've got a tequila mule, and the special twist that we have is I've got a really good homemade prickly pear, elixir syrup, whatever. So this is a prickly pear tequila mule. That's what's in my cup.
So I think I've had a Moscow mule one time, and so I recognize the cup because I remember my friend Deanna telling me, like, oh, Moscow mules, they're always in these type of little copper cups. And I don't remember if I liked the drink or not. I'm assuming that I was like, okay, because I've had one since. But as soon as I saw your cup, I was like, I wonder if he's drinking a Moscow mule. And so yours is a twist on that. And what's the name again? Tequila mule?
Yeah, it's a tequila mule. I think they probably have a special name for that, but it's got lime and ginger, which are some of my favorite flavors and are so refreshing, especially when it's hot out. So that's what we got.
Mhm. Well, over here where I'm at, if you missed Tuesday's show, then I am still in Dominican Republic. So on Tuesday, you found out that I was in Punta Cana, and I am still here streaming live. And so you may have noticed my face freezing a little bit, but it's okay because the show must go on. I'm on the exact same internet streets as I was on Tuesday, but the difference is today it was a little bit of stormy on and off. So I think that's what's going on. But on Tuesday, I had the same drink I am drinking today called Dr. Funk. Give you some cup cam here. And this time I
Wow.
actually know what's in it. So in my Dr. Funk is Ron Dorado, Crema de Coco, Amaretto, which I like Amaretto. You can mix it with a lot of different things, and Zuma de Naranja. So very good.
Mm,
That's what's in my cup over here.
mm.
So both of us have parties in our cups. Hashtag no judgment zone. Whether you're sipping on water or you're sipping on tea, it doesn't matter. Or you have a little tequila in your cup. Hey, we
Yes.
love it here on the Happy Hour Show. So let's get back into this discussion. We've already talked about a lot of things about, you having your identity, things being biracial growing up, and then going to the military and what that looked like. And you shared some tips about how people can begin to figure out who they are and things like that. So once you got out of the military, how did your life change from there?
Oh, that's still happening. I'm still in the midst of that change, and it's been it's been really fun to kind of have the space and the time and the energy to really get back to who I am at the core. And still feel, those parts of me that are still there that have been ingrained in me, for years. So if you don't know, I did 8 years in the military. So when you join at 19, that pretty much, it shapes you to be a certain way. So I've been just tapping into that, and it's been awesome. And I love that. I had a vision for how I wanted life to look, and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to get there. But at the same time, when I really sit back and think about it, like it's already happening, and it's happening faster than I even thought it would. And it's just crazy. So yeah.
Yes, there's a saying that life you're living now is a result of the thoughts you had 5 years ago, which is another reason why I'm so adamant about being mindful of our thoughts, because our thoughts creates our words, and our words influences our actions and how we interact with the world around us, which creates the reality that we live in. So it's very important that we are mindful of these things, because what you're thinking right now is going to create the world that you live in a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so with you having your background and all that you've done, how were you able to, just develop that mindset where you're like, I am in control of my life?
Oh man, how was I able to develop that mindset? I think the first thing that I want to say about that is that's a constant practice. That
Mm-hmm.
is a constant practice. Like, it's so easy in so many moments that we go through to forget that we can be in control. So I just want to say it's a constant practice that I'm working on all of the time, and I don't think it ever stops. Now, was there a particular moment where I really realized this? and I can't say that I'm too sure. I can't say that I'm too sure. I will say once I found like a lot of success that I couldn't even imagine inside of my, my first career, it was at that point, I remember there was a defining moment where I was like, if I've accomplished and achieved this and how challenging it is and how so many people have struggled to do what I'm doing, like there's nothing I can't do. I've done one of the hardest things that there is to do, like in the military, in the world, and I did it by 21. I was like, what can I do at that point? Now, with that being said, we really have to sign ourselves up for those challenges though. We really have to challenge ourselves and sign ourselves up to be put to the test, put ourselves to the test, put some work in, put some blood, sweat, and tears in, and you'll really start to see, what you're made of, and you'll really start to see that you have a lot more power than maybe you realize. And when you start to realize that, that's the game changer.
Yes. Listen, you got to realize your power. One thing that I always say is that you cannot be in victim mode, because when you're stuck in victim mode, you give up your power for change. When you are constantly saying, woe is me, everything bad always happens to me, then you are putting your reality and your environment in somebody else's hands. Because things always happen to you, that means it's on somebody else to change what is happening to you. So we have to adjust our mindset and say, you know what? Yes, this happened, but it is not me, and I have the power to change what it is that I no longer desire. I'm going to remove myself from being this victim, and I'm going to snatch my power back, and I'm going to create the life that I desire to have.
Yeah. And the thing that I really want to add to that, you brought up such a good point, is like this idea of things happening to us. I think that things happen to us when we're ignoring our purpose, when we're ignoring our gifts, when we're ignoring our strengths and our desires. That's when things happen to you. And they happen to you, but almost they happen for you so you can get back on track. And Mastin Kipp, I don't know if you've heard of him. If you haven't heard of Mastin Kipp, he's one of the most incredible thinkers and coaches that I have ever come across. And, he talks about when you're living your purpose, things don't happen to you, everything happens for you. And you might not necessarily understand it, but if you are really seeking to live out your purpose, you can look and see how everything in a way could be happening for you.
I love that. I hope y'all took notes. If not, make sure you go back and watch the replay, because that was a good nugget. Things don't happen to you unless you've drifted away from your purpose. Otherwise, things are happening for you to keep you aligned with where you're supposed to be going, with walking in your purpose, walking in your destiny. Yes, yes, yes. What advice would you give to the viewers and listeners that are maybe like, you know what, I don't know what my purpose is, so things are always happening to me?
Yeah, the advice that I would give is stop saying you don't know, because you do. You do know. You're not lost. And saying I don't know is comfortable. And it's the easy way. It's the easy answer. But like, to say I don't know is false. You know. And you have to start asking yourself better questions and be with the fear that comes up when you really start to acknowledge it. When you really start to get those whispers of what may be your purpose. I think a lot of us get afraid. Like I said, it's comfortable to say, I don't know. It's comfortable to give up our responsibility and our power to external circumstances. It's easier. It's easier to do that. It's harder to say, no, I do know. I may not know how, I can't see it. I don't understand how it's going to work, but I know. And it's my job to take the next step and the next step and the next step.
Yes, and I think part of that is just having that fear of the unknown when we don't have the plan and we don't know what's going to happen on the other side of it. It's like, okay, well, even though I'm not happy, I'd rather be comfortable in what I do know than get uncomfortable in what I don't know. And that's the mistake that a lot of people make, the fear of the unknown and being comfortable in our current chaos. And so we have to say, like, no, this is not the life that I want to live. We have to do like a personal inventory and say, what is this current life that I'm living? What's it causing me mentally? What's it causing me emotionally? How will I be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 100 years from now, if I'm living my life exactly the same, not walking in my purpose, not doing the things I desire, not being truly happy and fulfilled?
Yeah. And when you do that, you'll realize it's costing you a lot. And when you do that, you realize the alternative to not living your purpose is actually way worse.
Right?
It's way worse. And, when I realized that, I realized, there's no other options. The alternative is horrible. I'd rather just send it. And I'll be honest, like I'm still working on getting uncomfortable. I still find myself being comfortable. And I really have to, that's one of the things that I'm owning right now is there's been certain patterns and ways of being that, have been comfortable. And in order for me to keep hitting that next level and have to get uncomfortable and have to ask those questions.
Absolutely. If you're just tuning in, you are watching a happy hour show with myself, Lindsey Vertner, and our very handsome guest, Mr. Sid Scott, who is a mindset and confident coach. You can find him on Instagram at I am Sid Scott, and check out his website if you'd like to book a free consultation call at breakthroughwithsid.com. Okay, so we have been talking about all the things surrounding identity and purpose, and I know that that's one of the things that you do in helping women, just be better and overcome those things like perfectionism and self-doubt and imposter syndrome. And so how did you get into doing that as specifically with women? Because I know that there are male coaches out there, but they work with males or they work with everybody. So how did you get into your lane and wanting to focus primarily on women?
Yeah. So the way that I got into my lane, this is a long story and I'm going to do my best to keep it super short because we definitely don't have enough time to get into all of it. but ultimately what it boils down to is the divine intervention of women at like every critical point in turn for me. Like when it comes to feeling depressed, when it comes to feeling like you don't know why you're here, where your life is going, who am I? Like I've experienced that. Like I've been through that. And I can tell you like the way that there has been a Black woman specifically to show up for me in those moments, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And I don't mean just be here doing what I do now. I literally mean like I wouldn't be here. And I can look at every critical point in my life and I can point to one Black woman who showed up for me in such a divine and incredible way that it's just like you're like, that's God. That's gotta be God. Like this is all it is. And so with that being said, that is at first how I got into coaching. First of all, about 3 or 4 years ago, that's how I first found coaching. And then as I started to put myself out there and own my message, I started to realize that it was women who were reaching out to me the most. And I just remember being so afraid of that, being so, so I'm like, no, I don't, when I started, I was working with men and I was like, I don't know about this. And then there was one woman who was like, what are you so afraid of? What if you just tried it? And then, and then I went in that direction, and then suddenly, like, so many things started happening so fast, and I was just like, wow, this is really it. And it just, the thing that I love about it the most is I feel like this is me getting to pay forward, like, all that's been, gifted to me to help me find my gifts and my strengths and my reason for being here. And the one thing that I'll say, when you're like living in your purpose, is you'll feel it in every single part of your body. Like, it's that joy you talk about. It's that elation. It's a full body. Yes. And, I that's what I get to experience. And, and of course that's always evolving. I'm still finding new situations where I'm like, yes, that's it. But, that's essentially how I got here. And, I'm just so thankful, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be having an amazing amount of impact that I'm having with the women that I do work with. And the thing that I'm realizing again is my entire life up until this point has happened in such a way that it just makes so much sense that, I'm in this position, and it's so effective, and there's so much impact there. Down to, the experiences that I had in the military with having to find my ID, my identity, my experiences inside of the military with having to become an incredible listener, an incredible leader, down to, my mixed race identity, helping me be able to see, both sides of the coin, and see clarity in the middle somewhere. Everything's been happening for me to help me be such a force and such a presence to help people find themselves and find their identity and find their purpose and claim their power and own their voice and become unapologetic. Is that's everything that I've been through and had to go through. And there was a divine intervention by a woman that shoved me in that direction. So here we are.
I love it. I love it. And of course, being a Black woman myself, kudos to you and all the Black women in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, with that said, I have a few more questions for you. The first one is for those people that, are just struggling with their confidence. What are the tips that you would give to just increase your confidence, boost your confidence? Like, where do people start whenever they feel like, I wish I was more confident?
So Marcel Klein, who's one of like the top emerging hypnotists and success coaches out there, I went to one of his seminars, and he articulated it in such a simple way that I've been looking for. And so I'm going to share it with you all. And he says, confidence, and I don't know if he came up with this, but this is where I heard it. He said, confidence is your ability to confide in yourself. And the foundation of a lot of my coaching is really increasing people's ability to confide in themselves. And the way that you can confide in yourself is by owning your truth, owning who you are, owning what it is that you really want, going after the things that you really want, doing the things that you've been saying you want to do but haven't been doing. And so the first part about being able to confide in yourself just starts with like, what's your daily practice and how you show up for you first. And when you start with that as the foundation, you can start to rebuild a lot of the trust in the fact that you are who you say you are, and you do the things that you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do them. And so the foundation really comes down to, how are you showing up for you, inside of every day and inside of every moment, and dedicating yourself to a practice that allows you to do that. However that looks for you. Some people will choose meditation, some people will choose, working out, like whatever it is. And then inside of that process, what's the thing that you've been putting off? What's the thing that you've been avoiding? What's the nag that you've just let nag versus doing something about? Like, answer that in some way. Take the first step, right? So if you want to start a business, take the first step. Follow somebody who's doing the thing that you see yourself doing, or, you know, buy a book, get a course, hire a coach, take the first step, do some research, whatever it is, and start moving in that direction. And then the last thing that I'll say, just real quick, if you want to increase your confidence, this is the huge one. Get uncomfortable. And get uncomfortable, I mean, in the small ways. And what this looked like for me is I started talking to random people. Just talk to random people. And I first started with like just asking them if they knew what time it was. You know, because our ability to confide in ourselves comes from our ability to put ourselves out there, maybe experience a little rejection, maybe experience a little bit of discomfort, and realize that, you know, we still got us, and we still good, and we survived, and we're okay. So yeah, that's what I got.
I love that. And something as simple as starting with asking someone else what time it is, because so many times we have these big grand plans like, oh my gosh, and we get overwhelmed because we can't see how we're going to get from point A to point Z because there's so many things to do and we don't know where to start. But progress is better than perfection. And so something as simple as, you know, saying, hey, excuse me, do you know what time it is? Like, that's a start. Like, it might seem insignificant, but it's a start to put you in that place. And next time you ask maybe a little bit more complicated question. And then next time you ask, hey, so where are you from? And what do you do? And all these other things. And so baby steps, progress is better than perfection, is what I took from that. And so I have a question that I have to ask all of my happy hour guests, because as I mentioned earlier, I'm all about creating your first class life, which is about living boldly and authentically as who you are, flaws and all, shedding away those masks of fear, of doubt, and, you know, feelings of rejection and not being good enough, and all of those masks that we put on when we wake up and go out into the world. So taking away those and being who you authentically are, and being intentional about creating the life that you desire, being intentional about walking in your God-given purpose, and intentional about creating happiness in every single moment that you can. And so my question for you is, how do you intentionally create happiness in your life?
The question is, how do I intentionally create habits in my life? Happiness in my life. Okay. How do I intentionally create happiness in my life? Wow. So how I intentionally create happiness in my life is take some step or some sort of direction towards my purpose. That's really it. And so that's what it boils down to, because here's the thing. I think that we all have like a divine purpose and gift, you know, to share with the collective. And it's my belief that we get rewarded based on how we share those gifts and how open we are and how willing we are to share them. And if you've ever experienced this where you're in your flow or you're in your zone or you're doing something that makes you, or you're doing something that is that full body yes that I was talking about inside of your purpose, you'll realize that happiness is a byproduct of that. You'll realize that joy is a byproduct of that. It just comes with it naturally. And we have so much inside of us to allow us to experience pleasure and joy and happiness. We're meant to be happy. And it's no mistake that it's no mistake that when you share your gifts and live in your purpose, that happiness comes with it. They go hand in hand. And
yes.
so that's how I do it.
Do you have any final words, advice for the viewers and listeners at home on tonight?
Final words and advice. Yes, I would say the final word that I have is come home to yourself. Things are so insane and crazy right now externally, and there's a lot of people trying to take your attention, throw you from your purpose, scare you, share their opinion, and make you think what they want to think. Be quiet, come home to yourself, and find do something that allows you to just come home and be with you and ground you. And it's been so important to me, especially through this panoramic panini, all the things that people are calling it. It's been so important, for me to find that practice every single day that is grounding. That's coming home, that allows me to hear me versus like all of the other noise.
Yes. If you're just tuned in, you missed it. It's okay, because you can go back and watch the replay. You can still comment, love, and share this video out. All right. So make sure that you do that, because our brother Sid Scott dropped some gems on identity, on purpose, and all things to help you get your life together. So definitely watch the replay. And if you want to stay updated on all things happy hour, then make sure you sign up at bit.ly/happy updates. That's bit.ly/happy updates. And sometimes our happy hour guests give us a happy hour special, but you got to be on the VIP list to get those. So again, sign up for happy hour show updates at bit.ly/happy updates. Mr. Sid Scott, where can the folks connect with you? Where can they reach out to you? Let the people know.
Yes. So you go to facebook.com/I am Sid Scott. You can friend me on there, shoot me a message. Instagram, I am Sid Scott. And then Breakthrough with Sid, if you want to schedule a call, 15 minutes, see how I can support you inside of hitting your next level, finding your purpose, making more money, whatever it is, we can sit down and hash that out. And I do have a special gift, if you do book that call, I'll give you my free guide to overcoming imposter syndrome. It is completely free. It's a game changer. I have tons of receipts I can show you that it is. And it's all yours. If you want to sit down and I just want to see you be great. I want to see you be, own your power, and I'm here to help.
Yes. So in case you missed it, breakthroughwithsid.com. You can find him on Instagram at I am Sid Scott. And remember, tune in every Tuesday evening at 9 p.m. Eastern for season 3 of the Happy Hour Show. And we have a few bonus Thursdays to go in there as well. Again, if you want to stay updated on that schedule, then make sure you sign up for updates at bit.ly/happy updates. And with that, we will be back this coming Tuesday at what time? 9 p.m. Eastern for another episode of the Happy Hour Show. All right, y'all. See y'all later. Bye.